crime, the nature of state involvement in international crime has changed. You know, how do we continue to go on that our remedies supposedly lie with going to the state to get some kind of reaction when we allege that crimes, the highest level of crimes, the highest level of criminality is taking place, obviously, right under our nose. And as I say the names Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib, Bagram. This is not obscure. This is not requiring really high scholarship to be able to see that this is going on. When we can't go to our own governments, when we can't count on our own law enforcement officials, when we can't count on the courts to deal with these matters, what are we supposed to do as citizens? So coming together to articulate the Calgary principles is one aspect of this process that we're looking at. Cynthia McKinney will be coming in from London, and she will be in Calgary on the late afternoon and evening of March 9. And we will have a venue at the University of Calgary. We'll have a forum to discuss the case of what we're calling Splitting the Sky versus George W. Bush. We'll have a venue to discuss how we might approach the Calgary principles. Ms. McKinney has served a Georgia constituency for several terms in the Congress of the United States. She was deeply involved in Viva Palestina, and her boat bringing in medical supplies to Gaza was apprehended by the Israeli Navy. She spent a week in an Israeli prison. She is presently involved as a jurist, the only jurist from the United States of America on the Russell Tribunal on Palestine. She is involved in hearings on what happened on 9/11 at Westminster Parliament on the Monday before she arrived. So she'll be coming in. She's very busy and taking part. We would hope that there is an opening for her to give evidence, testimony in the court case itself. The judge who heard the initial situation put aside 5 days, scheduled 5 days for this trial. So the judge who did that must have had an understanding that there's complexities here, that there's issues that need a hearing, that what was going on in Splitting the Sky's mind when he took these steps to dramatize, to express his view that George Bush should be arrested. When he expressed that, I would say, on behalf of millions. The shoe thrower in Iraq, there was a lot of attention on it. It was reported in the media. Many people looked at that shoe thrower as a kind of hero. That shoe thrower was expressing a lot of deep-rooted feeling around the world from millions of citizens. To my way of thinking, Splitting the Sky's action in Calgary on March the 17th built on what the shoe thrower had started and took it to another level. It was suppressed. You say, Scott, that you had to watch it on a YouTube. You didn't see it on a report of the CBC or CTV or the Globe and Mail. It was pretty much covered up at the time. Why was that so? Was that just coincidental? Was it just journalistic incompetence? Or is there something more serious at play here? But he was hurt. He was hurt at the time. I don't know how it looked to you, but when I saw the way he was crashed down on the ground, pushed down onto the ground, flipped over, and of course there were snipers in the area. He claims that he saw several people armed, going in for some kind of arms under their coats. It's a classic moment where he could have been tasered, easily been tasered. So at that moment, he was treated pretty roughly, in my view, and then he was treated roughly again in the prison. interestingly, there seemed to be some disagreement among the guards in the prison. Some seemed to have some respect for the position he tried to make, the statement he tried to make. Others were not empathetic to his position. I know that Ramsey Clark did phone the authorities in the jail, that we were very attentive to see that he didn't get hurt or worse in in those hours when he was in custody.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you say that our own Prime Minister Stephen Harper could also be accused of war crimes. Is that right?
Yes.
And why do you feel that?
Well, Omar Khadr, I certainly wrote about it in that article of mine, Should George W. Bush Be Arrested in Calgary, Alberta, and Charged with International Crimes. Omar Khadr was 15 years old when he was arrested. He was a child soldier. Canada is a signatory, as is the United States, to international conventions and protocols concerning the prohibition on inducting child soldiers into military forces. When child soldiers are subject, they should not be punished. It's quite clear in the law that they should not be punished. We're hearing about the role of Canada and torture in Afghanistan. We were starting to get some revelations along those lines. Torture is clearly, there's a huge body of international law on torture at the United Nations, the Geneva Conventions. That's for starters.
Okay, okay. I guess that's a very good point. And is there anything further that you would like to add?
I began collaborating with Splitting the Sky around the time of the episode at Gustafson Lake. I call it the Battle of Gustafson Lake, an Indian war that took place in British Columbia in 1995. And I wrote about it. The article ended up in the Globe and Mail. It was the last article I've had in the Globe and Mail. I could say I used to write frequently in that venue. In any case, Splitting the Sky came to see me. He became aware of my work. I started to realize he was a very good lecturer, and he has lectured a lot at the University of Lethbridge. Then in 2000, we collaborated on an extradition matter, on a court case that unfolded in Portland, Oregon, the case of USA versus Pittawanaquit. Pittawanaquit is a veteran of the Battle of Gustafson Lake. He left British Columbia while he was still on parole. Canada wanted him back. USA attempted to extradite him. Splitting the Sky, and a filmmaker by the name of Mervyn Brown intervened in Portland, Oregon, as a result of their discussions with the Pittawanaquit's lawyer, who was a federal official in the Federal Public Defender's Office. I became an expert witness in the case of USA versus Pittawanaquit. Actually, Pittawanaquit, it was found that the judge agreed that the political offenses exception clause applied, that Pittawanaquit had been criminalized for political reasons in a Civil War type situation in British Columbia. He is in the United States to this day, in effect, there with getting the asylum of the United States from Canada's politicized criminalization process. So that's a major thing that we worked on, a major juridical process that we worked on. It was Splitting the Sky who sort of addressed me and almost confronted me on the issues concerning what happened on 9/11 a couple of years ago. We've collaborated over a number of years on a number of issues.